Hello and welcome to RealMojo.LIVE. I am so sorry we have been having some technical difficulties. It happens. Today I've got a really special guest on that is going to be joining us and talking to us about Fortuitous, his company, and I'm sure I slaughtered the name, I always do. But he is out of California. He's been involved with ecom for quite a while and just has done some excellent work, and I'm excited to talk to him today. Without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Jack Kurtz. Jack, how are you doing today?
Hey,
Hopefully,
I'm good, Jeremy.
we're live.
It says we are. Let's see what
Okay.
happens.
Cool.
Technology.
Yeah, and it gets the best of us sometimes. So I don't know what to say. It happens.
That's all right, man. It's fine.
Anyhow, so I wanted to, kind of give you a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself and what set you on this journey of, running an agency, being a CEO and going after the e-com business and that whole world.
Yeah, okay. Funny story, kind of, my first career, I was a professional musician. I played drums and percussion and for about 15 years professionally. And I got to a certain point in my life, I was getting close to 30, which seems like a really long time ago. And I really needed to do something else. I wanted a different life. So one day I'm at home and I'm on this playing this practice pad. I used to practice for hours on this rubber pad, all my technique. And I'm in front of the TV watching reruns of Beverly Hills 90210 and Saved by the Bell. I can't believe I'm actually saying this live.
Yeah, it's okay. I watched it too, Jack.
I just started flipping around and C-SPAN came on. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like
Yeah,
folding
C-SPAN. I
cable.
remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is back in like the mid 90s, early to mid 90s. And there he was, Vice President Al Gore, and it was this whole official thing. Vice President Al Gore is logging on to the information superhighway. They had him like on a stage and he was at a keyboard in front of a monitor. And I had no idea what they were talking about. But I just thought to myself, I don't know what that is, but somebody's going to make a lot of money. And so I just started looking into, what the internet was going to be all about, technology. And I started taking classes at UCLA Extension in Los Angeles and kind of fell in love with software engineering and programming, which I never in a million years would have thought I'd be into, and started developing computer games for kids, like CD-ROM games. That's how long ago it was. And, I did things like for Marvel Comics. I actually developed a game for a company called Cloud9 Interactive.
Okay.
And it was a Marvel Comics CD-ROM. It was how to draw the Marvel way, and it was narrated by Stan Lee, the
Oh, wow.
the founder of Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I was into
incredible.
all this educational stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was educational games for kids, and then it sort of evolved into that started going out of fashion, and so you had to really know what to do on the web and HTML and all that stuff. So I started doing some of that, and that's kind of where it went. I had my own company in the late 90s called Crossroads Interactive, and it lasted a few
Cool.
years until the phone stopped ringing, and I didn't know how to drum up more business, so I
Right.
went to work for other agencies for a while.
Yeah, and I guess learned your chops there and until you were going out on your own, huh?
Yeah, I think I spent 10 years learning my chops about how to manage people and how to run an organization and learn about actual business, because I didn't have like a whole lot of business acumen. And it wasn't until maybe around, I'd say 2010 is when I launched Fortuitous full time.
Okay.
Having worked for other people and having done some freelance consulting a few years prior. That's really how it went down. It's funny. I was doing consulting for this one company in Beverly Hills in 2006 or 7, and I was helping them with their website, and I was helping them with their CRM, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a customer relationship management system. And I knew they were having problems with their billing system because their accounting people kept complaining about it. So I found a guy that could help me fix their billing system. I went to meet with their COO, and he wanted like a status report. And he said to me, okay, that's great. Do you know anybody that can help me with our billing system? And I thought to myself, how fortuitous. I was thinking the same thing. So I said, as a matter of fact, I have a guy. And he said, really? How fortuitous.
So there's your name. Oh, wow.
Right. There's the name of the company. I thought, okay, what just happened? That was kind of surreal. So yeah, that's how I named the company, Fortuitous.
That's cool. I like that. It's always cool when a name comes like that too. My first company was called Crude Design, and it turned into Cart Consultant, which is now about to turn into Collective Cart. But it's a whole thing, and it's, the path has all been in e-commerce for me for the most part. But how did you end up like doing so much e-commerce and being in that world? Because it definitely is a very specialized type thing, and it's more ingrained. It's not like building a static website,
Right. And you can actually measure if your website's generating revenue for your company because you're selling.
There's a purpose,
which is
right?
Cool. There's a real purpose. It's funny. I was involved in that first .com boom back in the late 90s. And when Amazon first came out, and when Yahoo first came out, and then Google came out, and everybody was wanting to build an e-commerce site. Everybody wanted to be Amazon. And this was like 99. And then the whole thing, you remember the whole bubble burst?
Yeah.
It was like the .com bubble. And when I launched Fortuitous, I didn't think, okay, I don't want to get into e-commerce. That ship has already sailed. That money's already been made. Let's do something different. But around 2016, everybody was coming to us for e-commerce work.
Yeah.
So again, fortuitous. It just sort of happened that people needed help with e-commerce. And so suddenly I kind of rolled with it. And now we're doing, I'd say, 60, 70% e-commerce. We're still doing maybe 30% of just like mobile app development and just website development using content management systems and that kind of stuff. But e-commerce is definitely the focus now.
And now we met kind of because we're in the same world of big commerce, both have been in the agency side of things. I worked at big commerce for 7.5 years. And so, I mean, that's kind of how we met. But with big commerce, what kind of drew you to them? What's the big selling factor for big commerce for you?
So about 3 or 4 years ago, I'm trying to think now, it's been a while. No, maybe it was around 2016, 2017. We had a client that was on one of those homegrown e-commerce platforms, and the thing was falling on its face. And they came to us to, what I'm talking about, right?
Oh God, yeah. I've been there.
Yeah. So they helped us to keep it up and running during, Black Friday, because it really, their servers were crashing. So we rescued them. And then we did a whole assessment for them after the new year on everything that they needed to fix. And there was just so much what we call technical debt. So we continued maintaining what was there, and we wanted to move them onto a different e-commerce solution. So we did an analysis. We looked at basically at the time the 3 major e-commerce platforms. One of them was Magento, open source e-commerce solution. The other one was Shopify, which was starting to develop a name for itself, especially for small businesses. And kind of the outlier was BigCommerce.
Right.
And so we actually did a full-on Gartner style analysis.
Oh, wow.
And lo and behold, BigCommerce ended up being the best solution for this client. And as a result of that, we produced a white paper that was sort of like a platform analysis between the those 3 different platforms. In fact, it's still on our website today. You can download it.
Oh, wow.
And BigCommerce, they won the shootout.
Wow. Well, and for me, it was always because at BigCommerce, when I first started there, it was a lot smaller than it is now. There were 40 employees maybe in the United States when I started, and now there's thousands and thousands of them. So, but what always kind of drew me in as somebody that was more technical and had developers that could work with it was the flexibility that was there. I think a lot of people look at Shopify and they go, oh, well, there we can just add apps for everything. Well, those apps get expensive, and then you also have the problem with them wanting to monetize the payment gateway for you, and so it gets really cumbersome after a while. And I like the ability to be able to go into a very open API where you can make things function the way that you need them to function and do things the way you need to do them, not just the way that you're set format with an app, right? Not to say there's not apps on BigCommerce. There obviously is, and a lot of the major ones that you're going to need are already there. But those little things where you need a little finesse, you need it to work this way, not the app way, it's just, to me, it's so much easier. And I've enjoyed working with the BigCommerce base because, to me, it seems like a lot of them are very entrepreneurial, but not just that. They've got a lot of grit and hard work. I've seen a lot of them go from nothing to multi-million-dollar businesses. One of them I was a part of was Kettlebell Kings, and helped. We were their agency of record, and help them all the way from, infancy to exit, and so that's a lot of fun. And that system was flexible enough to grow, through that. So, I think it's a great system, for growth, and flexibility is kind of my big thing for sure.
Oh, I agree. That's what attracted us. So it's not like this monolithic beast that you can't customize. It really is flexible. People come to us because they want more than what's out of the box, and they want more than what they can get from downloading an app and plugging it in. Sometimes they want to integrate. Well, sometimes pretty much all businesses want to integrate their e-commerce system with some kind of business management system, whether it's an ERP. And so there might be some people that don't know what all these acronyms are. So I'm going
to that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think of an e-commerce website, an analogy I like to use is a tree, right? When people come to your store, they want to pick the apples off the tree, they want to put it in their basket, and they want to buy them, right? Mm-hmm. But what makes that tree grow apples is what's underneath the roots, underneath the ground that you don't see. It's the roots, it's the soil, it's the fertilizer, it's the water. And that's really where 80% of people's businesses are being run, is below the surface. The customers only see, okay, I went click, 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 I put in my credit card, and then the next day or a few days later, something just showed up at my doorstep. Well, everything that happens from the time they clicked and they, completed that transaction to when that showed up at their door, there's a lot of stuff happening, right? So those orders are coming into a back-end system, which is it's called an ERP system or an order management system. And then they have to pick, pack, and ship it with warehouse management software. They have to make sure that the order goes out, that the customer is notified of the status of the order. There's a million things, well, not a million, but there's a bunch of things that happen. And so everybody has a different back-end solution that they want to integrate with, let's say, BigCommerce or Shopify or one of these e-commerce solutions. Or they want to integrate like their entire product catalog in something called a PIM, which is a product information management system. So all those integrations and all those customizations and things that are very specific to their business, that's what they come to us for.
Right. And what people don't realize is it's not just a website. Like you said, that's the surface. That's the very top of the iceberg, And there, once you grow, that iceberg becomes massive underneath, So
exactly.
And it has to, One thing I wanted to mention to you, and it looks like Stefan D. Dola. I don't know if you know them.
Steven, my brother-in-law. Shout out, Steven.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Right.
We got the brother-in-law helping out here. He was asking about, Web3 and blockchain. Are they really game changers or just a fad? And it's interesting because, it seems like, Shopify's had some apps and stuff that can do that, but now BigCommerce, I don't know if you met the guys at the summit the other day, but they have now a solution for Web3 as well, and it was really interesting, and I actually got to talk to those gentlemen before they left, and it's called Thread, and I was absolutely blown away by it, but I'd like to hear kind of, what your thoughts are on, Web3 and how it's going to affect us from, the e-commerce world.
Well, it's definitely coming, right? But it's also been here a while. And, you hear a lot of buzz about it. You hear a lot of buzz about blockchain, crypto, all that good stuff. Nobody's come to me and said, hey, can you build a solution for me based on blockchain, for example? What I think is going to be cool is NFTs, non-fungible token, right? Because that's like this virtual piece of something that you get to sort of own, I guess. And people are selling this stuff and people are buying it. Nobody's coming to us yet for it. So I guess to answer the question, is it a fad? I don't think it's a fad, but I think like with all technology, it's kind of bleeding edge, and it's going to take a number of years before the world catches up. Like even the internet in 94, I thought, okay, God, everybody should know about the internet. This is 1994. And in 2000, people were like, the internet, oh, wow, that sounds like a cool idea. I'm like, well, yeah, it's been here. So before, things are not going to get fully adopted for a long time. And that's the only way you're going to know if it's a fad. If it's around in another 5 years, it's really happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like one of the things that's interesting too, and outside of e-commerce, is these blockchains can provide things like smart contracts and things like that give you a secondary way to really hold people to something, kind of thing, as far as the NFTs and all the Web3 stuff. So, there's so much coming out. I don't fully understand it, to be honest, but I'm getting there and I'm enjoying the process. But yeah, I mean, it seems like overnight everybody's screaming, NFT and, Web3. I think you're right. I think we're going to see it kind of flesh out the way that people want to use it. Just like anything else, people tend to push things towards the direction that they're comfortable doing, interacting with things. And so I think that'll end up happening eventually.
I think artificial intelligence is already here, and it's been here.
Yeah.
People just don't know about it because it's so intelligent that it just it knows everything about you, and it's kind of creepy in a way, like even if you go on a site, it knows everything about you, what you bought previously, what are recommended products, all that kind of stuff. The way it just follows you around, and how about, have you ever gone on YouTube, for example? And suddenly you're having a conversation about cats, kittens. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you're getting ads for kitty litter and cat food on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Big Brother is listening. And so that's already here. And it's just it's so subtle, or maybe not so subtle, that, that's definitely not a fad. But the crypto thing, I know people that have made a lot of money with crypto. I know some people that lost a lot of money with crypto. I think as an investment, one could maybe argue that it's had its time, or maybe it'll have its time again. I'm not a crypto investor, but in terms of technology, no. But in terms of technology, I wouldn't turn a blind eye to anything. I think you got to be open, and that's how you stay relevant, is just being aware that there are other things other than what's right in front of you today.
Right. And it begs the question, what's next? What's coming around the corner? I mean, with all the AI, with all the Web3, like, it seems like we had it seems like we had kind of this time where everybody is, like excited about it, but they don't quite know what it is exactly. You know, I hear people say NFT and talk about NFTs, but I don't really. I haven't seen everybody buy in just yet, but they are starting to buy in, some of them, and I think it'll be interesting to see. You know, for instance, I thought it was really odd when they announced that they were selling Lambeau Field on NFTs, and you could buy a portion of that NFT for that field, and it really didn't equate to anything. You own nothing. To me, when I heard that, I was kind of like, maybe if you're a super fan, but the fact that it has no real value other than what somebody says it has, it doesn't really make sense, you know? So that kind of thing I'm not into. When it comes down to, hey, this maybe represents some sort of value, then I'm going to be interested. But I could care less about a digital asset most of the times unless it has value to me, real value. So,
but the younger generation is really into it. And so
yeah,
they're the ones that are going to dictate. You know, my kids were the ones that told me about NFTs before, like, I even knew about it. So you got to listen to the young people, man. They're the ones that know where things are going before anybody. And I agree, it doesn't have any real intrinsic value, but then we could argue that dollar and paper money doesn't have any real value.
Yeah, we're in a weird time. Yeah.
We are. I mean, it's not backed by gold and silver, and it hasn't been for a long time, but that's a whole other story. So to me, if currency is not backed by something quote unquote real, I kind of, I'm not the one that's going to throw down for it, but I know people that will.
Stefan's asking about VR. You know, I'm interested in how that might play out in the e-com world. I mean, I don't know, you know, how it would play out with the, you know, e-commerce itself necessarily, but any thoughts on that, VR and e-com?
Yeah, so VR, that's the cool thing. VR isn't even new. VR was around in the 90s. I even built some games using VR.
Really?
Yeah. So you know that nice fresh ink you got on you?
Yeah.
Which looks really good, by the way.
Thanks.
I worked on a game, a CD-ROM game. It was like a virtual reality game where you're in this immersive environment. It was called Skin the Virtual Tattoo.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was kind of a mystery game. It was almost like it was a long time ago. But VR has been around a long time. Apple had this thing called QuickTime VR. Those kind of headsets were around 20, 30 years ago, even 30. Yeah. So VR isn't new, but I'll tell you where VR plays a role in e-commerce is an immersive shopping experience where you're literally online and you're trying on clothes in this virtual environment, or you're shopping in this virtual environment and you're having this immersive experience. I definitely think there's something there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I literally sit here and go, you know, I don't even know where to go with it or how to think about that, because like, I really, you know, I used to think that, hey, yeah, well, these things are coming kind of thing, these trends, you can almost tell what's coming around the corner. But with technology the way it's been the last couple of years, I'm just dumbfounded. I have no idea in some manners, other than what we already know, what could be coming around the corner. Because I mean, I see something every few days that's new, you know. So I think we're certainly living in the most like fastest growing technological times ever. You know, we're not quite, you know, back to the future like they thought we would be with floating hoverboards, but damn, we're close. You know, I definitely didn't think we would be this damn close at this point. So
yeah, it's hard to really, I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but because I've been doing this for quite a while, I've seen history repeat itself in technology. It just comes in different forms.
Right.
Simplest example, the platform war between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs with Apple and Microsoft, right? And Apple had the cooler product, but Microsoft had the cheaper product, and everybody bought Microsoft.
Right.
And then the next version of that was Apple had the iPhone, and then, you know, Google had the Android, and it was the same argument. Which one is better? Well, one is cheaper, but one is arguably cooler.
Mhm.
Even the whole idea of the internet itself. Really, all it is it's a thin client, which is your web browser, connecting to some giant network out there. Well, when I was in the 8th grade, and again, I'm dating myself here, you could literally like dial in with an old computer to a mainframe, and then you could talk to a mainframe from your desktop computer. That's the same concept. This is just a different form of it. They come up with new terminology. The technology gets better, it gets more powerful, but you just keep seeing the same things repeat themselves. Again, VR was around a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's still around today, and people are talking about it like it's something new. It's just gotten better, and it's being applied differently.
Well, it's like before CDs, there was the laser disc that they were using for video. I remember going over to my friend's house and he pulling out. I mean, the thing was just as big as one of my records. And
Mhm.
I pulled. You'd pull it out, and it's this big silver thing, and essentially very similar technology to a CD, DVD type thing, just bigger. And it's interesting. It has just completely changed. It's funny. Corbin Coswelter said it's Moore's law on steroids. Uh, you know, everything is. I mean, it definitely that can go wrong or right or whatever it's changing now. Nothing is staying the same for sure. But one thing I wanted to kind of hit on too is you were an artist before. You were a drummer, right?
Yeah,
You were
that's
a
right.
musician. Where, in what way and what do you do with what you do now that really fulfills that part of your life in that sense? It is because for me, I've always been into like digital art, and when I was in college, I was a promoter. But
Mhm.
when I got into design, that's how I got into this. Originally, I was a designer. And when I got into that, I found kind of an outlet to be able to do it digitally. But what is your outlet now that you're not drumming all the time, or do you still drum? Is that, still part of your life?
Well, people who know me really well will tell me I never stop drumming. I'm drumming
Good.
all day long on the steering wheel, on my desk, on the floor. I'm like a living, breathing drum. It never
Yeah.
it's sometimes my wife tells me, I'll be going like this, and she'll say Jack has a song in his head.
Yeah.
Like it's still in me, and I still play on occasion. I don't
Uh-huh.
do professionally anymore. That part of my life is in the past. I still do some composition, like with keyboards and or piano.
Wow.
I do once in a while, but it's not like a regimented thing. Like I used to practice 5 hours a day, and it was my whole life kind of thing.
Right.
But the creative outlet for me in my profession, one of the reasons I got into this profession was, again, I was doing those kids games with all
Uh-huh.
these animated, cartoons and Spider-Man and this and that. And that was fun and creative.
Hmm.
And it was a way to take something that's kind of technological and maybe more dry and fuse it with the creative. And
Hmm.
even when we're building like, hey, an e-commerce solution, there's creativity that goes into that.
Right.
And when I used to write software, when I wrote code, there was creativity in that because I never thought I'd be a software engineer when I got into that. But the mind that the logic that you use to read music
Hmm.
and the logic of the structure of music, you have these notes, which are very cryptic. So that's your code. And then you might have like a first or second ending type of thing. So that would be like a loop or an if then statement in
Hmm.
code. It's the same logical part of it when you're writing software, and
That's the
then
most
when it
beautiful
actually
description of writing software I've ever heard. And I love that. I love it, by the way, Jack. That's great.
thanks. I never thought I'd be doing this because I thought I'm a drummer, I'm a musician, this is what I do. And I used to joke a long time ago, when I was still a musician, if someone put a gun to my head and said, someday you're going to be a software engineer, I would have told them to pull the trigger. And I don't really mean that, by the way.
Yeah, well, you know the difference between a pizza and a musician, though, right?
Oh God, here we
A
go.
pizza can feed a family of 4.
Oh, okay. You want musician jokes? I got plenty of those.
Oh yeah, you probably got plenty of coder jokes and everything else too, though now.
Yeah, what do you call a guitar player that breaks up with his girlfriend?
What?
Homeless.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Jack,
more, but I'll spare everyone my.
Well, Jack, I really appreciate you jumping on here with me today. Before we leave today, before we get off of here, is there anything that maybe you wanted to talk about or put out there, maybe going on with your company or something that is top of mind for you right now?
Well, the thing that I'm most excited about is this concept called Omnichannel.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it a lot. I've done webinars about it. I've written blogs about it. And it's a term that is very misunderstood, but it's something that if you're going to sell products online, you really need to understand if you really want to scale and grow your e-commerce business. So for example, there are people that sell their products on a website. Great.
Right.
BigCommerce, Shopify. There are people that sell on Amazon. There are people that sell on eBay. There are people that sell on, they might have a retail store and then they have some kind of point of sale solution at the retail store.
Right.
And if you're the type of business that, let's say you have a retail store, you have a website, you have an Amazon channel, maybe you got some stuff on Instagram, that's great. You're touching people in a lot of different places, but you're doing something that's called multi-channel.
Right.
And multi means many.
Right.
Many channel. Omni means all. And you'll appreciate this because you work for Feedonomics and BigCommerce, and that's an omni-channel solution. Yeah. So the whole idea behind omni-channel is, I'll give you an example of a multi-channel disaster. So we have a client and they have a website, ECommerce, and they have an Amazon channel. Well, somebody purchased in Amazon one of their products, and then they went, oh, okay, they have a website. Let me go on their website. They saw the same product on the website, but the description, the ingredients of the product was different, and they kind of freaked out. And then they call customer service, and oh, now I have to return my product, and oh my God, what just happened, right? That's a problem in multi-channel because you have different people managing those channels. You have different processes, systems, and data in all those different channels. And so there's no consistent customer experience. And that becomes a problem for your customer. And then for your staff, that becomes a manual data entry nightmare because now you're putting all that information in separately in each of these channels. And imagine if you're selling in 10 different countries and 5 different languages and 6 different currencies, it just becomes an exponentially larger problem as you grow.
Right.
And so the whole idea behind Omnichannel is to take all of your product information and all of your data and all of your pricing, currency information, language translations, and put them into one centralized system, and then publish that information out to Amazon, eBay, Instagram, your website, your social media, all of that, so that it is consistent and it's managed in one place, and that your customer has a consistent experience and your staff doesn't have a spreadsheet data entry nightmare on their hands.
Right. And people, I see this all the time where people in e-com will sit there and not make moves to get into that omni-channel kind of situation. And what they forget is you may hate Amazon. You may absolutely hate Amazon, but if you're not on Amazon, you're missing 45% or so of all of that traffic that is going straight to Amazon, right? For e-com, 45%, I believe it is, or 48, somewhere in there, percent of all e-commerce traffic is on Amazon here in the States. There's really a good reason to want to be on these other channels, right? Because they extend what you're doing. They're putting you in the place where the buyer is, right? And so I agree with you. Like people that got that one kind of like that mindset of we're just gonna, either they're not getting into omnichannel, or they're getting into it and they're just trying to do it, going about it with spreadsheets and things like that. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And that's why, companies like Feedonomics and BigCommerce are a great combination together, to do exactly what you're saying and pull the pain out of it for the most part, and help the customer really be able to get that data out there without having to worry about, whether or not it's going to be in the condition it needs to be, right? So,
yes,
those spreadsheets are a nightmare, though. I've seen so many of those types of situations that it certainly is alarming. Well, Jack, it has been great having you on today, and I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit on this call and our prior calls. And I look forward to seeing what Fortuitous does. See, I got it finally.
You got it. Yeah. Well done.
Does here in the future, and best of luck with that. But we will see you soon, and get everybody. Remember to come to RealMojo.LIVE on Thursdays at 5 p.m. CST, where we're going to be doing these interviews with all sorts of folks here in the e-commerce world and otherwise. So look forward to seeing y'all soon.